So I think there's this huge opportunity for exploding the Japanese economy. Four main pillars. So those are accelerated innovation, improved productivity, climate change mitigation, and finally better education and better work. Shonin Beauty Clinic to forecast the double eyelid surgery.
自然災害のリスク、そういう予想とかも AI というのは活用できるんですか？
Yeah, so that's one area we're very interested in working on. However, this data needs to be collected, and right now the government is the only source of this data.
チャット GPT のものはどう進化していくというふうに予想されますか？
Large language models is to go beyond language.
さあ、ピボットトーク。今回はですね、日々関心が高まっています AI についてどのように活用し、どう社会を豊かにしていくのかというテーマでお伝えしていきます。今回はですね、Google DeepMindにてシニアリサーチャーとして働き、株式会社Recursiveを設立されましたティアゴ・ラマルさんにお越しいただきました。よろしくお願いいたします。ティアゴさんはDeepMindマフィアのお一人でもあるかと思いますけど、まずそのDeepMindでは何をされたのかという点から伺ってもよろしいですか
？So at DeepMind, I was a senior research engineer. So that means I was working directly on the code development for AI. Because AI is the multidisciplinary research project, right? So you need to do things like writing code, but also understanding mathematical equations. So that's the job of the research scientists. And research engineers are bridging the research into code. So I was helping actually writing down the code and trying to get the AI systems to train successfully and then measuring their performance and applying them to real world problems.
個人的な興味になるんですけども、例えばテスラだったらもう車を作るロボットを開発してるみたいな事例もあると思うんですけど、そういうこのロボットが普通に人々をアシストする時代っていうのは来るのかなというか、いつになると考えられてますか？
So it's very hard to make the prediction in terms of years. But as I was saying before, I believe the next decade is going to be hugely fast progress. So I would hope that by 10 years from now, we are going to start to see many automated devices, not necessarily robots, because what is the definition of a robot can change, right? We imagine humanoid robots, but as you said, we might see driverless cars or automated doors or something like that. And 10 years from now, certainly we will see a lot more of those devices enter our lives. And scarily, we may see them talk to us all the time using ChatGPT-based interfaces.
日本で AI というと、チャット GPT をイメージする人も多いかと思うんですけども、こういう、なんていうんですかね、言語モデルというか、チャット GPT みたいなものはどう進化していくというふうに予想されますか？
Yeah, so the next step of evolution for these large language models is to go beyond language. So what we're going to start to see is to have them interact with other data types. So for example, images or audio. Because right now, these models are already trained on all of the internet. There's just not enough text in the world to keep improving them. They've already seen all the text we have. But of course, the world is much richer than just text. And that's where humans also acquire their flexibility in thinking, is we're not just speaking, but we're seeing, we're hearing, we're smelling, we're interacting with the world. So the next step to make these models faster and better and more accurate will be to expose them to these different modalities. And by that, we hope they will also become more robust and safe because they need to check their information across the different modalities, right? So for example, if I'm checking some text, but then it needs to match the information on a picture. Or if I'm listening to some audio, but then also seeing the video that corresponds, are these things aligned or not? By doing that, the challenge is higher for the models. That's why we don't have them yet. But that's where the next frontier of progress is. And these models pose very interesting challenges. So right now, OpenAI and Google already have large language models that can also ingest images, so they can see. But they're not releasing them, partly because of computational concerns, because we simply don't have enough compute power to widely distribute the models. But another concern is, what are the privacy implications of these models? So right now we have all these checks on the internet, check if you're human, and they all rely on visual tests. But these models can absolutely check all of these tests. So the check for who is a human online is going to start to become very challenging as a problem, because these models can basically impersonate a human. And another challenge is that these models might have people's faces or private data on the data, which means you could, in theory, give the model the face of someone and have it tell you what their name is, which might already be possible, but of course would become much easier with these models. So a lot of people are still thinking on what are the privacy implications and mitigations we can have to prevent these more advanced models from causing negative impacts.
あえてもう教育のあり方とか定義もガラリと変わりそうですね。
Right. I mean, given that some of these tasks now can be performed by robots, a lot of the things that we thought were only able to be performed by humans are going to change. And it's very interesting because we always thought that the kind of white collar jobs were the most advanced. But in reality, those are the easiest to automate with artificial intelligence. And in reality, it's manual jobs. It's jobs that require soft skills, that require understanding emotions and conversation with people that are going to be the hardest ones to automate. And that's where I believe we need to reskill people into creative endeavors and into increasing their soft skills, which, you know, soft skill is just a word, but in reality, these are nothing but soft skills. They're very difficult skills to acquire. And I think they're very valuable and increasingly so in this age of AI automation.
その上で、立ち上げまでの経緯というのを伺ってもいいですか？
Why do people wrap everything individually in plastic? For example, the cookies in the combini, every single one is wrapped in plastic. And so Toshi then told me, hey, Tiago, so why don't you solve this problem with AI? And I thought this is a very tough challenge, but I started thinking about it. Japanese companies of all sizes, we can improve the sustainability in the Japanese society. And that's how the idea for Recursive came about. Yeah, at Recursive, we created a plan for how to improve sustainability with the use of AI. And we've identified 4 main pillars. So those are accelerated innovation, improved productivity, climate change mitigation, and finally, better education and better work. For improved productivity, we've developed this solution with a healthcare company, Shonen Beauty Clinic, to forecast the double eyelid surgery. So this solution has enabled this clinic, which is, you know, traditional healthcare company, to improve the care for their clients because they were having issues with potentially people doing a surgery that they would not be happy with. And by doing the forecasting, we were able to minimize the number of patients that make decisions based on their imagination and instead see the reality and make a more informed decision. For the risk prediction, I already talked about the solution we developed with IHI and Sumitomo Forestry about fire prediction. And finally, for the better education and work, we are developing a large language model-based solution, which is called FineFlow. And we're working with potential partners in the education space to create customized teaching assistants for students that have specific needs. So right now in the education industry, we're doing education in mass, the same education for everyone. But we believe that in the future, with the coming changes in terms of AI and the restructuring of society that may entail, we really need to reskill people, so to change their skills to be more adapted to the new requirements. So I believe humans will have to be more creative and less manual. And for that, we need to find everyone's unique abilities and tailor education to them. And I believe AI can help do that.
日本においては自然災害が多いわけですけども、この自然災害のリスク、そういう予想とかも AI というのは活用できるんですか？
Yeah, so that's one area we're very interested in working on, and we're trying to talk to the Japanese government to develop solutions. So while for some areas it's very hard to develop predictive models, for example, earthquakes, for other aspects it is actually possible to develop AI models to improve the monitoring and the response to such incidents. So for example, forest fires are one, and typhoon readiness is the other. So how do you prepare buildings structurally to withstand high force winds or to withstand tsunami? All of those things can be helped with advanced AI models that can be used to simulate large-scale events and then help us better prepare for them, which should prevent the bigger destructions.
やはりそのデータが必要だと思うんですけども、そういったものはもうこうシミュレーションしていくことによってデータを蓄積して、実際の災害などに対応するというか応用させるという考え方ですか？
So there are 2 approaches to building this kind of simulators. One is pure simulation, where you use physical models to just make a big replica of the system. However, sometimes these might not be fully accurate, or they will require too much computational power to actually run in a sufficient enough accuracy. So in the last few years, the new class of models called the physics-inspired neural networks have been developed that can accelerate this simulation by the use of data. However, this data needs to be collected, and right now the government is the only source of this data. That's why we would like to be able to collaborate with government to obtain this data. But one challenge we've had while working with governmental data is that in a lot of cases, the data is still segmented by prefecture. So each prefecture will have their own data collection method, which sometimes may even be manual, and it will be in a different data format. So Japan needs some kind of digital strategy for the government to accumulate data and have open repositories of data so that not just Recursive, but any company that would like to help can have a structured repository of data and start building solutions to address these risks.
しかもこれは、日本でできれば当然世界でもできることですよね。
Yes, so we're starting off in Japan as the base of development, but then eventually I hope they will be exported to the rest of the world as a global service.
そういった意味では先ほど日本は優秀なエンジニアいるけども AI における知識がまだ不足している部分があると。そこを補うためには何が必要だと考えられますか？
Experience. I think in Japan we need to challenge ourselves. So not just our company Recursive, but other companies that are developing AI here in Japan. We need to challenge ourselves and to try to build products and services and models that are at the scale of Google, Apple, Meta, all of these companies. And by creating this experience, we will start to notice where we are lacking in experience. And at the same time, we need to open up a bit to try to get the engineers that have worked on such problems before to want to come here. Because one of the very positive aspects of the Silicon Valley culture is that everyone moves companies very flexibly, right? But then they're moving within California, and we want them to also be able to move to Japan. I believe Japan is already a very attractive destination, but then in terms of opening up for the labor mobility, it's still a bit rigid. So we need to kind of start having these exciting projects and opening up so that there's a more exchange of engineers globally.
その中でRecursiveとしても DX 人材を増やすための取り組みもされてますもんね。
Yes, exactly. So we want to encourage people to gain their experience by working with us. So whatever know-how we have, we would like to share with the ecosystem more broadly. And so we've started to introduce an on-the-job training program where we want to co-develop AI models and products and services together with our partner companies. And for that, they will send some of the engineers to work together with our engineers as a collaboration, because precisely this AI know-how that is missing is not necessarily something you read from a book or watch in a video course, but it's something that you acquire by working together and developing the code together. And so we want to transmit that know-how to our partners as well.
冒頭も先ほどお話ありましたけど、製造業との相性とかもものすごいいいですよね。
Yes, we could potentially help manufacturing quite a lot, but the challenge for us right now is that manufacturing industry has very long timescales, right? So you need to understand the actual physical hardware, and you need to develop a process, create the model, and then test it. So the cycle is very, very long, and we are in the process right now of talking to the clients, but we are a very young company, so we still have not had the chance to fully develop a manufacturing project end to end. However, we would be very interested in collaborating with such partners.
どのぐらいのスパンで考えられてるんですか？
For manufacturing projects, I would say something along the lines of 1 year to 3 years development time. Whereas our traditional projects that don't involve hardware are on the 6 months to 1 year.
それでも結構早いなという印象を受けるんですけども。
Yeah, so we believe that the iteration speed needs to be very, very fast. So we're a very agile company. And our goal is to keep producing new prototypes and developing the systems as fast as possible. Because the way AI development works is actually quite different from traditional software development. The legacy software development companies tend to produce software in what's known as a waterfall system. So that means they define all the requirements up front, and then they make a very long development schedule of several years, and then at the end they release the product. However, the product that is released at that time might no longer fit the requirements of the market or the users that are actually using it. So the approach used by Silicon Valley companies and increasingly most software companies in the world is the agile process, where you release something that might not be completely finished, might not have all the features, but you actually get users to use it and give you feedback. This system is even more important for AI development because when you train an AI model, often you don't have enough data that's representative of the real world. So you want to deploy the system and you want to start collecting data so that you can start seeing where is the system failing. And by doing that, you can improve the system continuously. It also allows us to address issues with ethics or discrimination because AI can very easily pick up biases in the training data sets. And it's very hard for us as a development company to create tests for everything. So AI is notoriously hard to test on a rigorous fashion because there's just too many cases, too many inputs, too many outputs. And so by acquiring quick feedback from a small selection of users, we can quickly correct that and acquire new data to fix the AI model and teach it how to perform in the way that is accurate.
世界と比較してもですね、同じような、この AI とサステイナブルっていうのを組み合わせた会社っていうのはあるんですか？
So right now, I believe in Europe and the US, sustainability is a bit more ingrained in how people are thinking. So maybe if you ask them, every company is a sustainability company because they all try to relate sustainability to their final product or mission. But right now, I don't believe there's any, at least big company that we are aware of, that is focusing exclusively on combining AI and sustainability like we are doing in the Japanese market. There are several companies that are software for sustainability. So for example, measuring data, metrics, and so on. But this consulting of AI and sustainability, as far as I know, is something that is not very popular throughout the world.
リカーシブに期待することも大きなというふうに思うんですけども、その上で目標といいますか、いつまでにこれを実現しようというようなプランはありますか？
Right, so our strategy has always been to not raise the venture capital. It has pros and cons. The pros is that you can grow faster and you can move the team faster. But the cons is that you end up subject to market forces. And because we're a mission-driven company, we always want to be able to focus our mission around sustainability. That's why we are a bootstrapped company operating only on the earned income. So with that sustainable growth in mind, our goal is always to deliver successful projects to our clients so that we can enable larger projects to come, to build the trust with the Japanese companies and our partners, so that we can grow the team continuously and start to tackle more advanced projects. So right now we are not yet at the size where we can tackle certain government-sized projects, but our goal is to grow the team in size and expertise to be able to tackle those projects with the confidence that the government requires. So our success metrics are not financial in nature, but they are impact-based. So how many projects are we delivering that is having a positive impact on society, and how widely adopted those projects are being. That's our metric for success.
ティアゴさんはどんな世界を実現させたいですか？
This is a very interesting question. I believe it's kind of difficult for one individual to create the world, right? So the world is created by the interaction of everyone, right? So my hope for the future is that I can contribute to building a world with less discrimination, less environmental impacts. And so whatever contributions I can do to help there, I believe is already enough to make me proud of my contributions. And I hope that as a society, if we all build these small contributions, we can build a society where we have this kind of freedom to enjoy a clean environment, a society without bias, and hopefully society where people are free to express their creativity and move things forward according to their own curiosity. That's kind of the future where I would like to live in.
リカーシブはそれを実現できると信じていますし、日本にとっても本当に大きな素晴らしいインパクトがなされるんだろうなというふうに期待しています。
Thank you so much. We are working really hard to achieve that.
本当に今日は貴重なお話ありがとうございました。またぜひよろしくお願いします。